What is the worst thing that ever happened to you? Turned out to be the thing that built your career. Today's guest didn't just build a business philosophy around that idea. He lived it. A leg injury in college derailed his original plan, and instead of sidelining him, it launched his very first business. Now he's trained over 7,000 coaches in 35 countries around the world, co-authored a book with Ken Blanchard and Stephen Covey, and built a methodology that helped businesses everywhere scale without falling apart. Today, we're translating all of that specifically for personal injury firm owners, how to turn a setback into momentum, how to grow without burning out your team, and how to build an offer and client experience your competitors cannot touch. Welcome back to Time for More Injury Funding, the podcast where we can break down the real stories, strategies, and systems behind building a thriving personal injury practice. I'm your host, Laura, and today I'm joined by Carl Gould, founder of Seven Stage Advisors. Carl, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Nice
So
to be
good to
on.
have, so good to have you with us. Before we dive in, for listeners and viewers who don't know your story, give us the short version. You started out with landscaping business after your leg injury in college, and it's kind of snowballed from there into training thousands of coaches and consultants worldwide. What's that journey looked like in a nutshell?
Yeah, well, I was at college. I was in my second year of school, and I was going for accounting and finance. And I thought I was headed for an accounting degree and a finance degree, and I was heading into the world of finance. And a couple days before the Christmas break, I had a freak injury where I broke my leg really badly, and I had to take. I was in a full length cast for 3 months, and I had to take a semester off from school. Well, I was paying my own way, and I didn't know that once you're out of school for 6 months, that your grants and scholarships dry up, and all the loans you had came due, and so I was paying my own way through school, so I had to leave school. And there I was broke and broken leg, and sitting on my couch at home, my mom's couch at home, and I needed to make money. And I only knew one thing commercially to do, and that was construction. But I really liked being outside, and I knew landscaping really well, so I started a landscaping company, and that's kind of what started my entrepreneurial career.
Love it, absolutely. What a true real story, beautiful story. Love it. A lot of our listeners and viewers are attorneys who build their firms representing people going through the worst moments of their lives, often after an injury of their own, whether it's personal injury of some kind or workers' compensation situation. Do you see parallels between your comeback story and what your clients experience?
I do. I One of the things I learned very early on. Now I was kind of thrown into the business world, and I was going to college, and at school you're learning the academics of business, but not really the street smarts of business. And I thought business was really complicated, and you needed all these degrees, and you needed all this learning, and swallow an encyclopedia. And I remember my leg is healed enough to work, and it didn't really heal all the way, but enough to work. And I went out there, and I was going out giving proposals and quotes for my landscaping company. And I remember my very three first appointments. I had one on Thursday, I had one on Friday, I had one on Sunday. Went on the appointment, and I won the job. I was 3 for 3. And I remember calling my father, and we were talking, and I said, "Dad, I'm 3 for 3. I can't believe this. I went on 3 appointments, I got 3 jobs." And he says to me, he said, do you know why they said yes? And I was like, "No, what do I care? They said yes, right?" And he said, "Well, you should go ask them why they said yes, because once you know why they said yes, then you can duplicate that." And I'm like, "Good one, Dad." And so I go back, and I ask each of the people why they said yes to me. And one was a commercial project, and they were partners. So I go to their office, and I said, "Hey guys, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. You told me that you had 5 contractors that you called, and yet you hired me. And if you don't mind my asking, Why me? Like what did I do? How did I earn your business? And the two of them were there and they kind of looked at each other like, I don't know, want to tell them? You tell them. Nah, you tell them. Go ahead. You sure? Like, nah, you got the job already. And so I'm like waiting. I'm like, okay, here it comes. I did something brilliant, you know? And the guy says to me, you were the only one who showed up.
Wow.
And I said, what? He said, yeah, we called five contractors. Three of you people called us back, us people. Three of you people called us back, but you're the only one who showed up with a proposal. You said you would, and you came back, and you seem like a nice guy, a hardworking kid, and your price is pretty good, so you got the job. And I was like,
Wow.
really? That's it? And so I remember walking out of the office feeling really disappointed. Like it wasn't my clever pricing strategy, or it wasn't my, how good my proposal looked, or how well I was dressed, or how professional I was. Or I was on time. None of it. It was just I showed up, and at first I didn't feel good about that, and I was like, wow, it was kind of disappointing. Then I thought about it, and I said, wait a minute, you're telling me if I just out hustle the other guy, I can win? And that was my takeaway. And I was like, well, I can hustle. I might not be able to do a lot of things, but I can hustle. And one of the things that I learned was that if you work hard and if you go to bat for your clients and you hustle your assets, um, you can win. And that I think is very, very relevant. Now let's fast forward almost 40 years, 42 years now. I've been in business. And I found that to be true. And I've worked with a lot of law firms. I've advised a lot of law firms over the years and a lot of attorneys. And one of the knocks is my attorney doesn't care. I'm just either a retainer or a contingency or a fee to them. But the ones when you really hear about someone who's happy with their attorney, that person really fought for me.
Hmm.
They hustled. They did the extra thing. They took the phone call when they didn't have to. They gave me their cell phone. I called them on the weekend. I called them early. I called them late. They were there for me. They picked up the phone. I didn't have to go through 10 people to get to them. And I learned that, after all these years and all this AI and all this technology, it's still a hustle game.
So true. It's all about relationships and that human touch, making
Correct.
somebody feel
Yep.
special. And how old were you at that time?
I was 18 when I started
18.
my business. I started
Wow.
my business at 18. This story is when I was 19. Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So you were just a kid, but kid with
I was.
inspiration and big dream, and you did it. I love that for you so much, Carl. Can you tell us what's really the difference between firm owners or clients who bounce back and turn setback into fuel versus the ones who stay stuck?
Yeah. So in business, my philosophy is that you need to fall in love with the client and you need to do everything that you can to help them. And your best stuff is your next stuff. In other words, you don't hold back your brilliant idea or your great product or your service or your feature. You do it now. You do it now. You give them the best thing that you have. And you know what? You have to have faith and trust that your next thing is going to be even better than your last thing. And you challenge yourself to be better all the time. You're constantly and never ending on a path of improvement. And so that's my philosophy. I think if you do that, you will always be in service of the client. You'll always be raising the standard, and you will create a gap between you and your competitors. Because if you give everybody your best and you work hard and you're hustling, you make it really hard to keep up with. And I've always liked to stay a little bit ahead of the competition and continue pushing even to this day, and stay on the leading edge because I believe that's where all the change and the growth and the transformations.
That is so true. You worked overnight shifts, loading trucks, and ran a landscaping business by day before things turned around. What kept you going during that grind? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, that's the part I don't talk about a lot. But during when I launched my landscaping company, I also worked at UPS from midnight to 8 a.m. And the first couple of years of my professional life, I did that. And then 2 years later, I needed health insurance. So I got a job as a professional bartender. I was working some sick hours. But one of the things that really drove me at the time was I really felt like I was at the time in my life that I was trying to make something of myself. I had gone to college and, I had to leave school. So I wasn't really feeling all that good about myself. I had to leave school. I didn't have any prospects for going back, couldn't afford it. When I started my landscaping company, I enrolled at county college at night to take courses in horticulture and all things to be a contractor, project management, surveying, plant identification. I really wanted to do well in my field, but I was. I thought I was going to have this high flying career, and here I am now in construction. With buried in debt and working my butt off every day. So I was really trying to make something of myself, and I was trying to figure out what was my mission in life and where was I going. And I found something that I was really good at very early on. And I love this entrepreneurship. And I realized that I could really be successful here. So that's what drove me because I felt like I had something to prove to myself, not necessarily anybody else, but to myself that I could really make a go of this.
Hmm. And if any personal injury attorney or any attorney for that matter listening right now or watching us is in the middle of their own setback, maybe tough case or slower year or burnout overall, what would you tell them?
Well, I, I much like what I was going through at the time, if you're into personal injury, it's almost always a David versus Goliath scenario. If you are representing an individual, for example, and somebody gets hurt, where do they get hurt that they're suing? They get hurt at another business or they have damages from a larger entity. And so there's always this David versus Goliath type situation going on. So I would encourage them that they have what Goliath doesn't have. They are nimble, they are agile, they can change, they can pivot, and they can move and change and shift in a way that their adversary cannot. You can outwit and outsmart and outlast that person. If you're good at what you do, which I suspect you are, that's why you're there representing the client. There's always an angle to win. If you always have the high ground, meaning if you're representing somebody where you have a defendable case and you have something that has merit in the case, then you are fighting for not just yourself, you're fighting for somebody, and you're fighting for something bigger than yourself in a personal injury case. And so there's a lot to be motivated by that. Sometimes as people, we are often wired to do more for others than we do for ourselves. Not everybody gets to the gym, but if we have a friend in need, we help out the friend in need, right? We'll always help out somebody more than we'll help ourselves. So, if you're remembering that, hey, I'm doing this for somebody else, not just for myself. Yes, I benefit, right? Because the fee and the accolades and the reviews and the testimonials. There's a lot of reasons how you win, but you are serving a greater good and you are serving another person in the process.
And should people help themselves first or others?
Well, that's a really good question. We should help ourselves, just like we're taught every time we get into an airplane, or if you've ever taken your scuba. I remember getting my scuba license, and they teach you a scuba certification, and they teach you if you're underwater and there's two divers, and you're with somebody else, and their regulator or their oxygen goes away, you take care of yourself first before you help them. Otherwise, you could both die. So we're supposed to help ourselves, But I know in business we oftentimes help others to our detriment. Now, it is important that you help yourself from the standpoint of take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, make sure that you are refreshed and ready to do the job. That when you plan out your year, you are scheduling time for yourself to make sure you can recalibrate, make sure that you could stay on top of the latest trends. So when you are in front of that client, you are the best version of yourself.
Really appreciate these great trips, Carl. That idea of resilience doesn't just apply to individuals, it applies to firms too. Which brings me to the next big question. How personal injury firms can grow without becoming overwhelmed? Growth is the goal for almost every firm. More cases, more revenue, more impact. But growth without a plan can bury a team really fast. Carl, you
Okay.
build your whole practice around what you call the seven-stage growth methodology, helping businesses scale their sales and lead generation without losing control of their operations. How does that apply to personal injury firms specifically? How can they grow without becoming
Yeah.
overwhelmed?
What I've noticed over the years when I work with a personal injury firm or in a law firm, what I'll find is that the firms are top heavy. In other words, when a firm is trying to grow, what do? They try to get really good cases. They try to have
Mhm.
really good clients. They promise the client that they'll get the best representation. Now, all the client cares about is that I get good representation and we win or we get a positive outcome. What the firm misinterprets, they get this wrong, is they think they have to put their top people on every case and rely on the skills of the lawyer as opposed to any of the junior associates of the team.
Mm.
They don't leverage their team enough. And so what happens is you get somebody who's been in a firm, or you get a firm that's got a handful of lawyers or more. And as they get higher up and they start billing more and higher hourly rates, they keep more of the work to themselves as opposed to spreading them out among their team. And what happens is it starts to cap the growth potential of the firm because the senior associates and the partners will say, we're exhausted. Here's the most common thing I hear. Carl, can you just get us our life back? Yes, we can. Yes, please help us grow the firm, but we need our life back because I have no time for myself. I'm working day and night. I'm back and forth to court, or I'm in mediations or other sessions or writing briefs. I can't get my life back. And what happens is they rely on the personality of the attorney instead of creating process for how they work a case.
Mm.
And what firms should do is create their way, their proprietary way and their unique way of representing a client and representing a client and trying a case. And if they were more process driven than personality driven, they wouldn't get burnt out. They wouldn't be as overwhelmed. They would spread the wealth. They would leverage their junior associates more, and it would allow the senior associates and the partners to do more business development, to do more account optimization, and to be able to do more relationship building.
So pretty much what you're saying, it sounds to me like prepare your law firm for eventually selling the law firm. Is that right? Are you going that direction?
You will be more saleable if you have a proprietary methodology, if there's a proven way that you generate leads and new clients, and that it doesn't rely on the senior partner and the managing partners, right?
Mhm,
If it
mhm,
all relies on the equity partners and the equity partners are selling, what are you really selling? You're
mhm.
not. You're selling a book of business. You're not selling a business. You're selling a book. Well, that book drops in enterprise value almost 50% when it's reliant on the practitioner. You can't have it reliant on the practitioner. You have to have it reliant on the process. And if you do that, then you can be a very scalable firm.
Which is exactly what many, especially younger law firms or companies in general, do not do. So processes and systems in place is a must as early as possible.
Correct.
What are, would you say, the early signs that a firm is growing in an unsustainable way? More cases coming in than the team can actually handle well.
Whenever I understand there's certain laws that uh, legislate how you need to charge and how you need to show your fee structure and all that. But the moment I hear from an attorney, I'll be your attorney, you will work with me, that's the first sign that they're creating a bottleneck.
Mm.
What they should be saying is, you're on my team now. You're going to work with Team Carl, not just Carl. Okay, so let me introduce you to the team. Here's my paralegal. Here's my junior associate. This is the team you're going to work on. This person specializes in research, and this person specializes in litigation. This person specializes in negotiations, and this person specializes in mediation. And as a team, we're going to work together, and you are going to meet with multiple people in this process as we go through. That's so rare. Normally it's, oh, you're going to meet with me and we're going to meet every week, and every time we do this you're going to get a call from me, or you might get an email from my paralegal but on my behalf. Mm-hmm. And as soon as that happens, we create that bottleneck. Because what attorneys need to remember, because they'll say this, I hear this all the time, attorneys will say to me, well, they're always requesting me. Well, yeah, because they're the only one they know. You're the only one that you've ever mentioned. You've never mentioned the team. You've never mentioned the group or the department or the this branch of law that, or this part of law that this department focuses on. You don't say it. That's why how would I know the team? So that's one of the things that I like to see them do right away is, number one is there should be a large infographic that says, here's how we try a case. This is the process that we go through. Here's what your client journey is going to look like. And here's the team you're working with. Yes, I will be your point person, of course, but you don't want to work with just me because I have skills in one area. So I've built you an entire team that has skills in all the other areas that you're really going to need. So you're not going to meet with me all the time. You're actually going to meet with them more, but you want to meet with them because they're experts in what they do, you know? And that's what I like to see.
This is such a great point that I never actually heard anybody, bringing it up. What I hear from a lot of injured plaintiffs on our end, from legal funding perspective, is that, I talk to my attorney. And if we ask who's the attorney, usually they say, they give a name. And then we look it up. No, they're not attorney. They're either paralegal or case manager or legal assistant or somebody else working for the attorney. And a lot of times people don't even meet their attorney, even though they're under impression that they are working with attorney. So what you just said, it makes such a big sense. And everybody should listen up to you. 100%.
Thank you. Yeah. So, because what we find is the more you as the attorney make your clients reliant on you, the less you can get away from them. Mm. And I don't mean you're trying to get away from your attorney, but the more you're tied to your desk. And really, there are so many times, and from the various cases I've seen and the cases I've been part of, I really didn't need to speak to the attorney. It was nice that he or she wanted to be there for me personally or assure me, but I didn't really need it. I just care about the results. I care that you have a team that can make things happen, that can make decisions, that can give me good insights to allow me to collaborate on the case. But I don't need to speak to this person or that person. So the fact that you have a team is actually more impressive to me, because how many times do you hear, oh, well, I'm on vacation for a week, so my case is going to stall for a week. Nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Or my paralegal is going to hold the fort for a week. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hold the fort. I want to drive this thing home.
Would you say, is there a specific system or process or hire that makes the biggest difference for a firm trying to scale? Is that like one thing that applies to all law firms, or each law firm supposed to have individual plan?
Well, there'll be there'll be some variances, but there, if you just break down how a case works, there's the initial intake or onboarding of a client, and then there's the discovery portion where you're learning about the case and you're investigating whether we have a defendable case or not. And then you learn about your adversary, and you make contact with the adversary, and then each side essentially presents their case, right? And oftentimes there's an initial settlement offer or at least discussion. These things are similar; they don't change. Yes, I might start off with a slightly nastier letter, or a little bit more in my discovery, or I might reference different things, but essentially those steps are the same. And so what I would like to see you do is I would like to see you build your team that has a person with a specialty in each of these areas, like somebody who is a rock star at discovery. Not all attorneys are, right? You have to be really good at research. You have to be essentially a data scientist. You need to know how to break down the information that you've gotten and look for that angle and compare it to the law and other precedent to see what approach we're going to take in this particular case. So not every attorney is an expert in every step of the process. They're normally good at some steps of the process. And so I would just lay out what are the steps and what is the metric of success for that particular step. And then who are my experts in each area that I can collaborate with. That will give that law team much more capacity. Everyone's doing their area of specialty. They're collaborating, and they as a team, they can handle a lot more caseload, and they could drive a lot more revenue into the practice or the firm.
That's such a brilliant tip. I'm sorry, and I see this actually happening right now with the AI moving so fast. Where
Right.
the ones who are behind, they better let the path, or take it over for the ones who are interested and who know how AI works and how to use it properly. So which is a big hot topic right now in the legal world. Carl, how do you help a firm balance case volume with case quality and client care, especially in an industry where the client relationship is everything?
Well, yeah, the first thing I would look at is who is your ideal client and what do they consider quality? Is quality for them speed, meaning how quickly is it resolved? Doesn't have to be perfect resolution, but it needs to be a quick resolution. Is it how discreet or private they are? I've heard many times this, our client has told us no matter what, we keep this out of the public as much as possible. This stays behind closed doors. This never sees a courtroom, right? We're going to do this through mediation. What matters to your client? And because if you're a celebrity or you're somebody in the public eye, whether you win or lose a lawsuit, or the fact that you're involved in one is the problem, So first things first is let's find out what our clients define as success. And then I would build my team around that. And I would build my reputation around that. Are you the person that wins in court a lot because your clientele says, no matter what, we fight this, no matter what, for our reputation, right? So do you have to be that expert litigator? Do you have to be that, really rock star mediator? Are you the kind of person that can, that can kind of see both sides and you're really good at working with the other side to find a solution, a win-win solution? So that's the first thing is I would find out what does my typical type of clientele consider to be a win, right? And then I would build around that. I think what you'll find is we as professionals, we think we have to deliver a lot more than the client actually wants us to. And I'm not saying that the law firm is over delivering. What I'm saying is they might be doing some things that are a waste of time or totally inappropriate for that particular case. It's just not even necessary, and so that's where I would start.
What's one thing firms get wrong when they try to scale too fast, too quickly?
Well, what they do is they rely too much on their senior leadership. They don't. The biggest complaint of the associates and the more junior associates is that the senior associates and the partners and the equity partners don't trust them and don't give them the mentoring and the work that they promised them. There's this myth that no one wants to work. Well, in a law firm, they work and they know how to work and they want to do the work. They've been thinking about this for their whole life. They've wanted to be a lawyer. Now they're there. Now they want to practice law. They want to grind. Their biggest complaint is that the senior associates are not sharing the workload because so here, this is going to sound odd, but this is your goal as a law firm. Your goal as a law firm, when you start the firm, your first thing you want to do is fire the lawyers. Right? Now that sounds odd. Wait a minute. Whoa, wait. You just said fire all the lawyers. Yes. Now think about this. How many chefs are in a McDonald's restaurant? Zero. In order to scale, the first thing McDonald's did was fire all the chefs. And that doesn't mean there's nobody cooking. What they said is they took what a chef does. They have one chef that makes the menu. And then they taught everyone else that didn't have to be a chef how to build their part of the menu or that meal. It's the same thing in law. You want to fire the lawyers. In other words, you only do what's the highest and best use of your time. Whatever your signature skill is as an attorney, you do that. You don't do anything else. You push it down to your paralegals, your administrators, your junior associates. They should be doing the work. As a firm, you fire the lawyers and drive the work down to the lowest possible position in the company. And if you're saying, well, it's too complicated, then you haven't broken down that piece of the case yet into simple enough terms that somebody else can take part of it. So you drive all or part of it down to the lowest possible denominator in the firm. And if you're struggling with that, that means you don't have a good enough process yet. So if you can't fire the attorneys, you are going to create a bottleneck and you can't scale.
Very interesting point. Love it. So growth is one piece of the puzzle, but it only works if clients are actually having a great experience along the way, which leads perfectly into something you call the obnoxious offer. Okay, Carl, I have to ask, what is an obnoxious offer and why would a personal injury firm want one?
Yeah, so an obnoxious offer is something we came up with years ago. Somebody jokingly called me obnoxious, but then they hired me in the same meeting, and it was a little odd. So it stuck with me, and I said, well, why did they hire me if they were so upset about my pricing and my approach? And I realized, and they told me later, they said, what you were offering was hard to resist. We didn't want to pay the higher price, but it was, we couldn't resist what you were selling. And so we have this internal kind of tongue-in-cheek expression of, are we being obnoxious enough? In other words, are we offering enough value? Are we working hard enough for the client? Are we doing our level best in order to really help them? And so we say, are you obnoxious enough? And the way that we come up with that is we ask, and I'll ask your listeners the same, think about the top 5 complaints that personal injury attorneys hear from clients or prospects as to why top 5 complaints of personal injury attorneys. What are the top 5 reasons why people don't like working with you? And it might not be you personally, but it might be from others that you've heard of. And so take those 5 complaints and decide which of those 5 can we promise to our clients that that'll never happen to them if they become our client. And then you build your offering around that. Can you have 24/7 responsiveness? Can you have weekend hours? Can you, within the parameters of the law, what can you offer them that are complaints in your industry? Right? It's too complicated. All right, I have somebody I'm going to assign to you that is going to, an additional person that will walk you through assembling your paperwork or documentation. Great. We're going to assign you an admin that's going to come to your office and help you put together what you need, or help you download, or help you scan, or help you, help you document or upload, whatever it is. What are the top 5 complaints about working with someone like you? And let's eliminate those. Mm-hmm. And you will become obnoxious in value. And then you can charge the highest level price that you are permitted to charge. And that's what you want to go for. Because you're selling hours and you have a limited amount that each person can bill, you want to be billing at the highest rate possible.
The personal injury space is famously crowded. Every firm claims we fight for you, we care. How does an obnoxious offer cut through that noise?
The obnoxious offer, when you're doing an obnoxious offer, you are making the promise no one else in the niche has the guts to make. So you cut through the noise really quickly by simply saying, what is nobody else doing? I'm going to do it. Nobody else has the guts to take credit cards. We're going to take credit cards. Nobody else has the guts to say you're going to have 24/7 access to us. Nobody has the guts to say we're going to send somebody over to your office to help you with all your documentation, so your life is not disrupted. Nobody has the guts to say that. And there are more. We can keep going through it. We want to look at what's important to the client. Nobody else is going to have the guts to offer this, so we're going to offer it. And as soon as, because your clients know, because they talk to multiple attorneys and they hear the same thing from everybody. So as soon as and everyone knows what the complaints are. There's never like, wow, gee, I wonder what they're mad about attorneys about. No, come on, that's easy. Everyone knows what they are. The question is, who's got the guts to take them on? Are you? If you are, then guess what? You're going to separate yourself from your competitors immediately.
That is so true. I love that. And it's not just about standing out. It's about giving clients a reason to trust you before they even walk through the door. Carl, right. This has been a fantastic conversation, from turning setbacks into comebacks, to scaling smart, to building an offer and experience that actually sets a firm apart. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and follow your work?
Thank you. So the best way to find me is on my personal website, carl360.com. So that's CARL360.com. And you can find everything you need to know about me. And that's the best way to intersect with what I do online.
And we'll drop all of that information in the show notes, including a link to 7stageadvisors.com. Carl, thank you so much for being here. But before we let you go, I have one final pop-up question, okay?
Sure.
What's your favorite movie that you can watch over and over and over again?
Hunt for Red October.
Why?
The Hunt for Red October. Best movie ever. It's by far my favorite. Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin, brilliant in the movie. The strategy of that on both sides, and it was so cleverly written. It's just a brilliant movie. I remember I used to watch it all the time, and my family was like, "Oh my God, not again!" And one day I actually made them watch it. I'm like, you know what? You're gonna watch it with me. And I stopped. I explained everything as we went, and they were like, "My God, this is a brilliant movie!" And now they're hooked. So, Hunt for Red October.
Okay, I'll have to rewatch it again. It's been quite a few years since I watched it.
It's an older movie.
Many times. It is, yes.
So worth it.
So worth it. And that's a wrap on this episode of It's Time for More Injury Funding. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone in the personal injury world who needs to hear it. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your comeback. And if you have any client who needs cash advance, medical funding, or post-settlement funding, or if you as a law firm owner need a case funding or cash flow, reach out to us at moreinjuryfunding.com by calling us at 404-931-8350 or sending us an email at info@moreinjuryfunding.com. Thank you so much again. Have a great night.